what's up, y'all? I'm Chef Mikey. Welcome back to Chef's Harvest Farm. I'm standing here in one of my high tunnels, and it's primarily filled with celery. So celery can take 21 days just to germinate if you're starting it from seed. I mean, I'm sure it can take longer, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows how to do it quicker, but primarily it takes around 3 weeks to germinate. It won't germinate at all if the seeds dry out, but they also need sunlight. Most seeds don't actually need sunlight to germinate, but celery does, which makes it harder to keep moist. So you see the problem here. You have to keep it moist, but it has to have sunlight, which dries out the seeds. So it's very hard to germinate from seed is the point. And you know, I've tried to grow it from seed before, where I've seeded like a whole tray of 72 cells, and I get like 5 that germinate. So yeah, absolutely, it's not worth it for me if I'm doing that. And I'm sure there's people out there who have methods for great success growing celery from seed, but it's just not my experience, and that's not what I'm here to talk about today. What I'm here to talk about today is how I actually make celery profitable for myself on a small scale. So because of those problems growing it from seed, I just order it from Banner Greenhouse. It's an organic greenhouse in North Carolina. It's just a few hours from here, and they ship it to me. I get 128 little seedlings for about $30. And then celery takes forever. Once it even does sprout, if you get the sprout, it takes forever to grow into this. But the little seedlings that are about this big, those are about 8 weeks old probably by the time I receive them. So I save myself 8 weeks worth of labor by just paying somebody else to do it. And I mean, I know market gardeners out there who will say things like, oh, it's cheating if you don't start your own seedlings. Bullcrap. It's hiring somebody to do a job. It's outsourcing for your business. This is a small business, even more so a small farm, where I personally primarily do all of the work myself. So for me to just hire out somebody to start some seedlings for me that would otherwise be a challenge or not profitable, that's just a smart business decision. It's not cheating. It's just hiring somebody to do a job. So anyways, I got some pictures of how they actually arrive, and then I just hand transplant these. One of the only things I hand transplant. But I transplanted these on August 15th. Today's October 18th. So 60 days later, and I'm harvesting this crop for the second time. I harvested it last week also. And so I just cut the stalks off. I leave the roots in the ground, and I just come through and I just cut them off. And I'm looking for the biggest, kind of fattest ones, but at the same time, I'm not making these bunches super big. And I'll sell them for $3 to $4, probably $3 at restaurants, $4 at the farmer's market. And I have definitely sold these bunches for $5 before, and they don't sell as good for $5, obviously. So if I only have like a small amount and I don't really need to sell a lot of them, then I'll sell them for $5, no problem. But primarily I'm selling them for $4 at the farmer's market. I cut about eight nice big ones. They're decent sized ones, you know, yummy ones. And I just cut them all off. And I have rubber bands around my fingers. I counted them ahead of time. I always count the rubber bands first. So then if I have rubber bands left, I just have to count how many rubber bands I have left, and then I know how many bunches I did. And I don't actually have to pull out all the bunches and try to count them again. So that's always a efficient way to harvest, so that you know how many you have. And I just wrap the rubber band around like about 4 times, I guess, nice and tight bunches. And then I'll wash this and I'll store it soaking wet. The celery will soak up the water, so it's nice and crispy for your customers, and it doesn't get wilty. So that's 8 stalks, And I'll sell this at the farmer's market tomorrow for $4. And I'm probably going to bring around $100 worth tomorrow, maybe $200 worth. I'll just see how it looks once I get in here and get it all done. And then it and then it'll grow back from the middle. So I'm just harvesting the outer layers, and then I leave the plant in the ground, and the inside, it grows from the inside out. So the inside ones will become the outside ones. I'll come back in a week or two, and I'll just continually harvest this. And I'm going to try to get this at least last until after January 1st. So I want to make it through the holidays and have lots of celery. So that's what makes this a profitable crop. It only took me 60 days from transplant to get to this point. Now, yes, if I started it from seed, it would take a lot longer and more labor, keeping it watered, stressful, might not all germinate, might not go well. So I save all that time, stress, and labor, and they just show up on the day that I want to plant them, or a couple days before I want to plant them. And then because I can just pull the outer layers and it continues to grow back, then I can potentially get 2 or 3 times the money that I would get if I were to just cut it off and sell the whole stalks at once. And last year I was not successful at this. It got really cold, A, sooner than I expected, and B, it just got colder than typical last winter in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee, so I'm hoping to be able to grow this, and I'm hoping to have learned from some hard lessons last year. So I've installed these hoops inside my high tunnel, and I'm in the middle of the high tunnel. So last year I had it on the edge of the high tunnel and it died. And I'm hoping that this year in the middle, it's going to be a little bit further from the edges. And then if it does get really cold, I've got these hoops installed so I can just pull Agribon 50 right over the top of them for a double layer of protection inside the high tunnel. And that should be enough to keep these alive through some pretty cold nights. And if I have to double up the fabric inside the tunnel or even triple it, I will. I have enough fabric. I'm not messing around this week. I bought a 500-foot roll of 26-foot wide fabric. So I have plenty of it to cover my whole entire farm, probably twice if I need to. Yeah, so that's how I make celery profitable for me. And I'm going to go ahead and get this harvested and take it to the market tomorrow. So I'll just kind of show you how I get in here and a couple of things that you might want to look for too. So like celery has a couple really common diseases that are hard to avoid. There's probably a scientific name, but I just call this celery leaf curl. And you'll see the leaves start to curl like this and look kind of distorted and everything. And I find like these are still edible. So I will harvest that and sell it and just kind of take the leaves off. But this is what the disease actually causes. So you'll get like these lesions down in here. And from my understanding, it comes on the seed. So sometimes you'll see where you can buy heat treated celery seed, and that's gonna potentially avoid this. They just heat up the seeds basically before they sell them to you. But I buy these seedlings, so I don't know what Banner Greenhouse does, but I always get a small amount of these, and so I just cut them out when I come in. Like I'll harvest the good part of this, sell it, and then just get rid of the plant, and that just kind of frees up some airflow for the other plants that do good, and that's just kind of part of the game. And then when I'm bunching, you see I'm just coming in here, I'm just cutting off one stalk at a time, looking for the biggest ones. And these guys aren't really huge, but I mean, it'll be fine. Make a few bucks this week. I'll probably just get like $100 worth out of here, let it grow more for next week. And my real goal with this is to just have celery for the holidays. I just so I harvested all like the biggest outer layers, like in or outer stalks in this area right here. I just kind of tried to work in one area. I got about like $120 worth of celery for the market this week out of that. So I'll show you how I pick them up, and then just a really important point that I want to go over. If you're planning to use this method for continual harvest off your celery, you can't really see it, but it's really messy around here, right? There's like little like stringy kind of leaves that weren't good to harvest hanging off, some that kind of might have some pest damage and stuff. Um, and that's all going to be area that'll harbor pests and disease. So what you want is you want to make airflow around it. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean around all the plants, clean off anything that's like dead or undesirable. Sometimes you just get little leaves that are kind of growing out, but it's not really a stalk. It's not going to grow into something better than it already is. And then that's going to help the plant to focus on new growth. So it grows from the inside out and it doesn't worry about all this uh, undergrown trash that we don't really want. Uh, so yeah, I'll show you how I just get everything cleaned up and then we're gonna be good. I just come through with, I've got a trash can here and this will all just get dumped in the compost when I'm done, basically. So I'll just speed it up so you can see how that goes and then we'll see what it looks like after. So just to kind of show you how it looks, it's not perfect, but you can see how I clearly went through and cleaned it up. And just to really give it that airflow around the plants, which will help not to harbor pests and disease and just focus those plants on new growth. You can see I just kind of thinned it out. And I still have all this stuff there I didn't even touch. I'll get to that next week. And this is what I'll sell at the farmer's market tomorrow. So, oh yeah, and the plants, they'll be like really stressed after you do this. I only water them on drip irrigation. So I'll go ahead and run the irrigation. So I'll go ahead and run the irrigation real quick to try to make these guys happy. Uh, Celery really loves water, so more water the better. So I do have a really nice wash pack station. It's in the basement of my house, but I got a worker down there right now just washing all my spinach and salad greens for the market. So rather than make it complicated, I'm just gonna spray these off with the hose in my tote, put them right in that cooler, and then that cooler is just gonna go in my refrigerated trailer and bring it right to the market. And I'll just store them nice and soaking wet so that the celery soaks up all the water and it's nice and crisp for the customers when they buy it at the market.